Hare treats. A long time ago, a terrible famine swept through the great Takumana forest. It was a drought unlike any the animals in the forest had ever known. While the villages in the valleys below still thrived with bubbling streams and lush fields, a far worse disaster was unfolding in the deeper forest. One by one, every river, every spring shrank to mere puddles. The pasture dried up, and mossy hollows that had held life now lay parched and silent. Animals grew weaker, many of them dying of thirst. With their lives on the brink, the wild animals of the jungle gathered for an urgent council. "This is not the time for old rivalries," the elephant boomed, his voice carrying over the clearing. "The perils of the past," he continued, his eyes sweeping over the anxious faces before him. The animals clamored for a plan until they reached a decision they hoped would bring lasting relief. They would dig a well, a deep, enduring source of water that could sustain them all, and nurture the vegetation that would, in turn, bring life back to the forest. The hare, meanwhile, scoffed to himself. He had only attended the meeting because they had insisted every animal come, and the stupid donkeys with whom he had an appointment had taken these threats seriously. To him, this whole ordeal was just another foolish idea the old bozos had cooked up, and he, Kalulu, had better things to do. He idly tapped his shoulder bag, not even bothering to pretend he cared, and could not wait to get back to his usual business. Whatever the other animals thought of him, let them think it. He was not the bad guy here, he told himself with a smug little thrill. This was none of his concern. Meetings like these should be illegal. "A well," he muttered, trying to engage the giraffe seating next to him in a bit of some juicy gossip, but the lanky creature merely chewed on a leaf and ignored him, its gaze fixed somewhere in the distance above the trees. For all Kalulu knew, small, spry creatures like him did not even need to bother. He had managed perfectly well even during these difficult times, slipping away to the villages below once in a while for a quick drink and a little extra food. He thought it was absurd they would waste time and effort digging a well. As far as he was concerned, he had nothing to worry about at all. And so as soon as the meeting was dismissed, he vanished into the thinner parts of the forest to continue his tricks on gullible animals. When summoned to help, he merely ignored the threats. "Rubbish, if you ask me," the tortoise heard him wheedle a couple of donkeys one day as he leaned over a bucket of paint, lazily swirling it with his brush. Spotting the tortoise, a creature he held not a shred of respect for, he mockingly waved a paw. "Get along, ancient one," the hare said in his sing-song voice. The tortoise continued on his path, wondering what sort of trickery the hare had just spewed on his new victims as the donkeys gratefully offered him some savory shrubs that the hare tucked into his bag of tricks. The donkeys, not wanting any trouble, simply ignored his advice, and together with the others, dug on, sweating and straining under the scorching sun, until their backs bent and their hooves and claws blistered. Over the next few weeks, the hare would occasionally show up, but only to feign contribution or distract the others with tales of his adventures in the villages beyond, until the animals finally agreed to ban him from their project entirely. Eventually, the animals completed their well. Water flowed like it never had before. The animals rejoiced and things started getting better. The hare would sidle up with a smile, trying to strike up a friendship, but the animals were resolute. Though many of them loved his treats, they all agreed he needed to learn his lesson and swore to stand by their decision. The hare soon realized things had gotten serious. He would often get thirsty, and the only water he could find was far away in the outer villages. His small bottle, once the envy of many, now lay empty. Even when it was full, it was nothing like the freedom of an endless well. He grumbled to himself, "As if a small creature like me could dry up their well. Besides, how could they ever expect me to help dig such a monstrous thing?" He felt in his humble heart that there was no justice at all in these woods. There was enough water there for everybody, for heaven's sake. He would sometimes sneak through the night to steal a swig or two, and whenever he managed to get water, he would often make sure to make the well muddy as repayment for their lack of generosity. This went on for a while, and so the animals decided to guard the well against him. "He thought he was clever, didn't he?" they reminded each other. They decided they would rotate shifts. The kudu was the first to guard the well. He sat through the night, picking his teeth and staring at the starry skies, humming a soft tune. He chuckled to himself as the song always brought back memories from his youth. He still could not believe how foolish he had been all those years ago. Though his mother had told him his grandfather had died from rabies during another extended drought they had been experiencing, a deep sting of guilt remained in the kudu's heart. He wondered if it was not disappointment that killed his grandfather. He still remembered the crushing shame in his grandfather's eyes when "Nkso!" A crisp, unfamiliar sound cut through the air. His ears flicked sharply. Something had interrupted his thoughts. It was sometime after midnight, and he thought he heard a soft rustling. He could tell by the muffled sound of feet on broken leaves that someone was there. And then the hare emerged from the shadows. "What do you want here?" The kudu spat, his words sharpened more by the sting of memory than by the hare's sudden arrival. "Relax, chap, you look dreadful," the hare said slyly. The kudu let out a sound of unmistakable frustration. "You're not getting any water," he growled. "I know," the hare dismissed him with a wave of his hand. "I just thought you might like these." He unbuckled his shoulder bag and threw something at the feet of the curious kudu. Where did you get these?" the kudu asked, chewing on the particularly tasty piece of watermelon. "Well, that's a story for another day, but the point is, you could have more," the hare finished in a sing-song voice, tossing another piece in the air and catching it as the kudu watched ravenously. "These are special hare treats one gets to eat only when they agree to get tied up against a tree." The kudu was tempted. He scanned the empty clearing. They were alone, and so the kudu allowed Kalulu to tie him up in exchange for more of the delicious melon. After the hare gave him the treats, he went to the well, drank his fill, and dirtied the well for good measure. When the kudu finished the treats, he realized he had been tricked. He struggled through the night until the other animals found him the next morning. "Oh, I'm surprised how this turned out," spat the warthog, who had come to investigate the noise. "You can all talk about how crude and gruff I am, but at least I would not be stupid enough to let a little rabbit turn me into a lawn ornament." There was a burst of laughter from some of the animals. "The kudu certainly would have been wiser," they murmured. "Why don't you guard it tonight, if you think you are the only sensible one in a forest?" the kudu complained as the jackal untied him, failing to suppress a laugh himself. But the warthog simply let out a final, derisive snort and ambled away with a wag of his tail, muttering about why he disliked tall, clean creatures that look like statues and move like the wind. "Don't mind this self-righteous scoundrel," the tortoise said quietly, shaking his head with sympathy. "He can be unkind." And so the animals debated who would guard the well next. The monkey stepped up. "I'm not having his nonsense. I'll smash him against a tree if he tries his stupid tricks on me." He rattled off so many plans that by the time he was done, everyone was convinced he would handle it perfectly. That evening, the monkey waited, ready for a confrontation, but the hare did not show up. He wedged 2 small sticks on his face to keep from falling asleep. And then he heard it. "Niksho! Niksho!" A loud clicking sound cut into the night. It was the same sly, aggressive clicking the kudu had described. The monkey immediately leapt to his feet, yanking the sticks away. "What do you want?" he demanded. "You're not getting any water today." "Of course not," said Hare sweetly, tossing him a ripe banana. "I was just passing by and wondered if you might like that," he added and pretended to walk away. You don't happen to have more of these, do you?" the monkey asked, peeling the sweet fruit. "Of course I do." The hare explained how he had gone to great efforts to get this particular batch of bananas from a farmer friend. "Just one knot," Hare said. "You know, these are special hare treats one can only have if they agree to get tied up against a tree." The taste of the banana was so good that the monkey could not resist. He could still feel the savory taste long after he had swallowed it, and so the monkey agreed, and the hare bound him tightly against a tree and handed him a tasty bunch before going to the well to drink and deliberately muddied the water as usual. In the morning, the animals found the monkey tied up just like the kudu. "What is it with you fools?" the elephant bellowed, shaking the ground as he stomped his massive foot. He was the strongest of them all and had no doubt he would succeed where the others had failed. And so that night, the great elephant stood guard, confident his towering presence alone would be enough to command some respect. When the hare walked in that night, the elephant was not to be fooled and would not budge. But the hare was patient. He waited until the early hours of the day when the elephant could no longer be adamant and his belly rumbled with hunger. Standing a careful distance away, the clever little creature began teasing him with treats he knew the elephant could not resist forever. The particularly tasty roots the cunning hare had brought, fragrant and irresistible in the quiet of the early morning, finally broke the elephant's resolve. Over the next few days, different animals tried to guard the well, but the hare outsmarted them all, and he had always bathed and muddied the well. Until one day, when the tortoise pleaded to be given a chance. They had been refusing, calling him all sorts of names, but they had done no better. So they finally allowed the tortoise to keep watch for the night. The tortoise was wise and knew he would not fare any better than the others if faced with temptation. Being a talented sculptor, he went into the forest that morning and fashioned a large tortoise figure out of a tree stump. And when he finished, it looked exactly like himself. When night came, he carefully smeared it with sticky tar to the figure and pinned the statue to the ground where he was supposed to be. Then he went home to sleep. The hare arrived as usual. He made his usual clicking sound, but no one responded. Suspecting foul play, he cautiously went out to investigate. He spotted the shadowy tortoise figure. "Well, well, well, look who's taking watch tonight," he mocked and teased. What an upgrade, just when I thought they'd be having someone better. But no one answered. "Well, I can give you something to eat since you've been starving here all night," he taunted, swaggering toward the tortoise as he patted his bag delicately. "I have everything for everyone. Let's see, for a slow plant eater like you." He plunged his snout into the bag and fumbled inside, pulling out items one by one and inspecting them with a dramatic flourish. "Ah, alfalfa sprouts! Broccoli leaves. Tempting, but no," he shook his head. "And cabbages." He paused. Then he thought better of it. Sticking out his tongue, he made a sharp, mocking sound. "Pfft! Sorry," he added with a smirk. "I always keep those for myself." Still, no response. The hare was annoyed. "Ancient one, I'm talking to you." The tortoise, of course, was always a quiet one, but the hare thought he deserved more respect. He was sure he had seen rocks with more ambition than this. "I ought to teach you a lesson," he said. He slipped off his bag and walked up to the tortoise, slapping him full across the face. But his hand was stuck. "Let go of me, you old pebble," he screamed. He struggled, deciding to knock him off with his left hand instead. Smack! His second hand got stuck too. "Let go, you pile of gunk!" Whack! Whack! He had proceeded to attack the tortoise with his right leg and finally his left. Soon he was plastered to the statue like a rag on a drum. When the animals rose the next morning, they were faced with a very interesting scene. Clever Hare thrashing and cursing, helplessly stuck to the statue and begging for mercy. They swore to teach the cunning hare a lesson he would never forget. The tortoise, meanwhile, was celebrated and was lifted high upon the elephant's back and showered with gifts and respect. The donkeys had not forgotten his treacherous betrayal either.